An Aryan brother is without a care. He walks where the weak and heartless won't dare. And if by chance he should stumble or lose control, his brothers are there to help reach his goal. For a worthy brother, no need is too great. He need not ask, fulfillment's his fate. For an Aryan brother, death holds no fear. Vengeance will be his, through his brothers still here. For the brotherhood means just what it implies. A brother's a brother till that brother dies. And if he is loyal and never lost faith, in each brother's heart will always be a place. So a brother I am and will always be, even after my life is taken away from me. I'll lie down content, knowing I stood, head held high, walking proud in the brotherhood.
People that are older and know what time it is know it's just business.
Yeah. Greetings and welcome back. It's your host, Gabe Morales. We've been covering Aryan Brotherhood members over the past 6 decades or so. Today we're going to get into the L last names, as in lucky. I don't know about you guys, but I feel very lucky to be alive and very blessed. I can't say that every day's been great, but overall my life has been pretty good. And I thank the Lord for that. Some of you may not be religious. I can respect just about anybody's beliefs. So maybe you'll thank the Great Spirit or chalk that up to you having good karma. Whatever be the case, I know I feel blessed. Today, I'll start off with Barry Lackey, who, believe it or not, is from Crescent City, which is where Pelican Bay is located. I show that he was housed in Nevada DLC in 1982 and then was popped for a robbery in California in 1985, whereby he was given C number 15232. I show he quickly got off that number but came back in the system with a new C number of 20118. I show he was housed at Folsom Prison in 1987 and was caught with a shank, but then paroled by 1993. He got a violation that same year and was housed at San Quentin. I then show that he eventually got out. He returned to CDC on a new charge of a burglary conviction in 2001, whereby he was assigned T numbers in Thomas 29702. I show he paroled in 2003, but was documented by the California Gang Task Force as being an Aryan Brotherhood member around that time period. But I show currently is not in custody. There was a Wayne Walker Ladd, aka Bulldog, who was born on November 19th, 1937 in Fontana, California, but I understand actually grew up around nearby Rialto. He was described by Aryan Brotherhood and MA associate, part-time actor and book author Eddie Bunker as being a very talented athlete. He was good in basketball, baseball, even ping pong, and often coached boxers like Bobby Brimage, as seen here, with fellow AB coach Wayne Odom. Bunker says that he was not real big in size, but he had a big heart and was a really good fighter, thus his moniker Bulldog. I also show him being here in this picture with Wayne Odom, Bobby Brimage, and I thought maybe Tyler D. Bingham because I couldn't see his face very clear. But I've also been told that may have been Rhino Anderson. I think they're both in pictures at Folsom Prison around the same time period with beanies on, thus my possible discrepancy. In 1956, a 19-year-old lad was drunk with some of his buddies when they tried to free 2 girls from juvenile hall, and they were charged for that. In 1971, Bulldog, along with AB co-founder Jack Red Mahone and another white convict, as well as 3 Chicano and 3 black convicts, claimed that they had been placed in lockdown at Folsom Prison only because they wrote a letter to CDC Director Raymond Procunier and Folsom Prison Warden Walter Craven, as well as multiple state legislators, to protest their treatment in custody. This was around the same time period as nationwide prison protests in many states, including the Attica prison riot, also known as the Attica Prison Rebellion, which took place in the New York Department of Corrections in Attica, New York, on September 9, 1971, and ended approximately 5 days later with the highest number of fatalities in the history of United States prison uprisings, I believe only matched by the Santa Fe, New Mexico prison riot. Even today, this event has been described as a very historic event in the prisoners' rights movement, and they use this very picture when the Aryan Brotherhood, Mexican Mafia, Nuestra Familia, and Black Guerrilla family staged hunger strikes in order to shut down the security housing units, also known as the SHU. These 9 inmates, which included Bulldog, also sued the department, but the CDC administration stated that their allegation of retaliation for writing that letter was not the case, and that the real placement in isolation was because they were found for investigators to be trying to organize an inmate work stoppage. Bulldog was soon transferred by authorities to San Quentin, where he bumped into his old buddy Eddie Bunker, who told Ladd that radical lawyer Faith Steiner wanted the ABs to form a truce with black and Mexican convicts to kill some bulls or guards. Steiner also communicated frequently with black family leader George Jackson, who soon did help kill some corrections officers along with Hugo Yogi Pinell at San Quentin's Adjustment Center. In 1974, Bulldog was out on the streets of Northern California and was allegedly given a contract by Aryan Brotherhood associate Eddie Ball to kill his heroin dealing partner, who was also one of the musicians with Tower of Power. And in case you didn't catch it, I recently released a video for Cinco de Mayo interviewing my tío, my uncle, who has played with many popular bands in Califas, including a Tower of Power cover band called Hip Street. He plays the bass sax, just like Doc does in Tower of Power. And as another side note, the lead singer for Tower of Power, Rick Stevens, was also a heroin user and was incarcerated at Folsom Prison around the same time period in the mid-1970s for homicide. Bulldog and Ball stole money from Cruz's body. Ball was soon caught, and Bulldog was captured not long after in Citrus Heights, located between Sacramento and his common stomping grounds of Folsom Prison. Both men were put on trial in 1975 for the murder. Ball was acquitted and released after a second trial, but Ladd suddenly changed his plea after authorities had introduced new evidence where he admitted to committing the homicide. He then pled guilty to the charges and got life. I understand that he became a little more low-key after that, and I understand died in January of 2005. There was Thomas L. Lamb, a.k.a. Tommy, who I believe was from Pomona, or at least pulled a bank robbery in that area in 1983 with Kenny Como, who I mentioned in the C episodes, and was a rival to Charles Manson as far as taking control of the Manson family when they both were in prison. Understand that he was captured in nearby El Monte, which is also in the San Gabriel Valley, just east of Los Angeles. I show that Tommy Lamb was convicted of that bank robbery and given BOP number 78245-012. I show he was housed at Lompoc in 1985. I'm not sure how, because usually you have to commit a homicide for the brand, but I understand he had his rock with 666 on it, and is seen in this picture here with the brothers. And as it often goes, yesterday's killers become today's killed, and he was murdered on October 15th, 1988, by Aryan Brotherhood members Cleo Roy and John Campbell. Understand that they choked him to death at Marion, then placed a noose around his neck to make it look like a suicide. I was told that the order was given by Blue Norris, Blinky Griffin, and John Stinson in California, and relayed to Aryan Brotherhood shot caller Barry the Red Baron Mills because Lamb had refused to do a hit when he was in California. This homicide was brought up in the 2001-2002 Aryan Brotherhood RICO trials. There was Gary Luttrell from Bakersfield. Understand that he entered CDC under C number for St. Charles, 45888, and was sponsored into the brand by Buzzard Glass. Evidently, on July 25, 1997, at Pelican Bay, Aryan Brotherhood member Aaron Jerry Marsh was strangled and stomped to death in D4 pod by Gary Luttrell. Authorities believed that Marsh was given Pruno alcohol laced with a sedative to make it an easy kill. Initially, authorities thought it might be connected to a killing that Marsh had done along with Aryan Brotherhood member Mike Tink Shepard when they took out a well-respected and tough fighter from the Hells Angel Oakland chapter who was vice president and acting president at the time, Irish Michael Farrell, when they were both on the outs in the Bay Area in June of 1989. But evidently, that was not the reason he was taken out. It was later believed to be purely in-house politics, allegedly because Marsh had refused to do a hit as ordered. The investigation found that Marsh was given drug spike Pruno for the occasion by Aryan Brotherhood member Elliot Rascal Grizzle while he was in his cell. The brew was then delivered to Marsh and Luttrell's cell by a Mexican mafia associate by the name of Michael Contreras. Once he was under the influence of the drink and drugs, Luttrell then strangled him with an inmate-manufactured garrote or rope, usually made from tied sheets. And it sounds like Marsh was just too drunk to even defend himself. That homicide was brought up in the RICO indictments, and he was given BOP number 25271-112. However, I don't show he's currently in CDC or BOP custody, and it was my understanding that he was not eligible for release until the year 2034. So I'm pretty sure he's just being housed in another facility. Often they do that because it's just too much of a risk to hold them at that particular agency. I show a few leeches who may all be related. I'll mention first Donald Rodent Leach, who I believe originally was from Oregon and had B number 50603. I show he was affiliated with the Aryan Brotherhood as well as the United White People's Party, which was a group that I believe David Country Chance ran. Oh, by the way, before I forget, I heard that Chance was recently released. I think when I did the C's, I said that I couldn't find him in CDC or BOP custody either. But evidently in that case, it looks like he finally made release after like 50 years. So congratulations, David. I hope you don't blow it. No pun intended. The only chance you may have. I show that Donald Rodent Leach was hit by longtime Aryan Brotherhood members Ricky Terplinger, Eddie Burnett, and Danny Troxel, who was just found guilty on the most recent RICO case and I understand got into a major argument with Ronnie Renegade Yandel. But I'll get more into that when I get to the T and Y last names. Getting back to the leeches, I show there was a Paul Buzz who I think may have been out of Venice. I show he had C number 60131 and that he was an Aryan Brotherhood member in the 1980s but had dropped out by 1995 and I believe later overdosed and may be deceased. There was also a Richard Shotgun Leach out of Venice. I showed he had B number 51033 and that he was an Aryan Brotherhood member in the 1970s. I showed that he was hit at DVI in 1974 and I believe dropped out sometime after that. There was Martin Crazy Horse Lewis. He grew up in the Fresno area, specifically the town of Clovis. I showed he was given B number 19927 and even though he was Native American, was originally Aryan Brotherhood but later on switched to the Mexican Mafia in the mid-1970s. Martin Batty Lewis, also known as Crazy Horse, was born on March 24, 1950. I show that he got into some trouble in 1968 and was housed at the Fresno County Jail. In January of 1969, he escaped from the jail, but was captured on January 31st, 1969. Evidently, when he was in jail, he also was involved in a sexual assault on a prisoner, and eventually he pled guilty to the escape as well as the sexual assault charge, in addition to the charge he was already facing. And he was sent to CDC, where he was given B number 19927. Initially, he was known as Crazy Horse from the Aryan Brotherhood, but he was very close to Martin Cato Vargas, as seen here, and understand that he asked the Aryan Brotherhood for permission to switch over to La M, which took place in 1973. Back then, there was an alliance between the Aryan Brotherhood and Mexican Mafia, so occasionally those kind of moves did happen. However, today that would be taboo, even amongst gang members. That's called set jumping, and usually looked down on. With Aryan Brotherhood approval, then, he was known as Caballo de la M. I showed he was housed at San Quentin Max in 1974 and was involved in the skirmishes between the Mexican Mafia and the BGF on January 19, 1974, whereby several BGF were killed. Understand that he paroled a couple of years after that in 1976, but both he and a buddy were killed in a head-on collision in his hometown of Clovis on New Year's Eve, 1976. I'm unsure if alcohol was involved, but that's definitely a big possibility. And services were held for him at a funeral chapel shortly after that, and he was buried at Clovis Cemetery. There is a Alan J. Long, who is an Aryan Brotherhood member out of Seattle, Washington. So much for those who say there's no AB connections to Washington State. Although it is true that today a white prison gang called the Aryan Family is more dominant. See the first episode in this series about Kenny Kuka for more on that. Understand that Allen started off as being a Nazi lowrider or an associate, so he may have had some kind of ties to California. There's also been a few NOR as well as Peni that are originally from Washington State. I show he was busted for assault 2 in 2004 and was housed at the King County Jail. He also was popped for a bomb in 2005, where I believe the feds picked him up, and he was given BOP number 35043- 086. I show he was housed in Phoenix in 2006, but it looks like was released after about a year. I then show that he was returned to custody in Washington, D.O.C. under number 8374433, but I show currently is not in Washington, D.O.C. custody. There was George Lavelle, who I understand was an Aryan Brotherhood associate, under BOP number 46478-048. But he may have earned his rock because I understand he committed a homicide in 1973 at Leavenworth and evidently got away with it. I was told that this homicide was ordered by early California and federal AB member John Abel. I show that George Lavelle was released from the feds in January of 2017. And finally, we have Joseph, a.k.a. Mitchell Lowry, a.k.a. Blue, a.k.a. Haas, and was considered to be a high-ranking Nazi lowrider. I show that he was locked up in the Youth Authority in 1976. He then was arrested for possession of stolen property in 1980, whereby he was given C number as in Charles, 23856. I show he paroled in 1988, but came back on a burglary charge in 1992 under H number 50733. I shall show that he was involved in a homicide at Pelican Bay when a lot of individuals were being strangled to death. And apparently he did the same thing to a cellie, an individual named Richard Hagler. Blue was involved in a very active internal war with Snake Bridges, who was involved with the FTB faction of the NLR, which stands for Fuck the Brand. Evidently, Blue believed that the NLR should be following orders of the ABs, but I believe eventually fell out of favor anyway. And I show is currently not in custody. And so that's it for the L last names. Once again, I hope you have a great day and lots of luck for your life, as life inside the walls is not good. Hope you learned something from this episode and that you don't take your liberty for granted. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for gangsters, cops, and politicians. An Aryan brother is without a care. He walks where the weak and heartless won't dare. And if by chance he should stumble or lose control, his brothers are there to help reach his goal. For a worthy brother, no need is too great. He need not ask, fulfillment's his fate. For an Aryan brother, death holds no fear. Vengeance will be his, through his brothers still here. For the brotherhood means just what it implies. A brother's a brother till that brother dies. And if he is loyal and never lost faith, in each brother's heart will always be a place. So a brother I am, and will always be, even after my life is taken away from me. I'll lie down content, knowing I stood, head held high, walking proud in the brotherhood.
People that are older know what time it is, man. It's just business.
Yeah.